Inside this ordinary-looking rusted barrel lay a horrifying secret: a mummified pregnant woman. No one could have imagined that this discovery would unravel a murder case spanning nearly 3 decades, leading police, journalists, and the victim's family on an international quest for truth. On September 2, 1999, in Long Island, New York, Nassau County's emergency line suddenly rang. On the other end, a panicked man explained he'd just bought a house and found a strange barrel in the basement. He suspected something terrible was inside. Police rushed to the scene. The moment they entered the neighborhood, an overwhelming stench hit them, so powerful you could smell it from blocks away. In the yard stood a massive rusted barrel, surrounded by horrified onlookers. Officers approached, covering their noses. Inside the pitch-black container, they saw granular material surrounding a shriveled object. Through the debris, they could make out a dried human hand and shoes. The homeowner, Cohen, had signed the purchase agreement just 2 days earlier. While cleaning the house before moving in, he'd stumbled upon this 30-year-old secret hidden in the basement corner. The barrel weighed about 350 pounds and wouldn't budge. Its surface was covered in rust and bore faded chemical company markings. Cohen called the previous owner, who said the barrel was already there when he moved in 9 years ago. He'd asked the owner before him, who said it had been left by an even earlier resident. Nobody knew what was inside. Because it was so heavy, several owners had simply left it to collect dust in the basement. Cohen couldn't stand having an unknown object in his new home, so he called 3 workers to help move the barrel to the yard. Driven by curiosity, he pried open the lid with a crowbar. Instantly, an unbearable stench burst out. Terrified, Cohen scrambled back inside and called 911. Cohen and the previous owner were quickly cleared. Neither had any connection to the barrel's timeline or any motive. The only lead was the barrel itself. The barrel was transported to the medical examiner's office for analysis. The work was extremely difficult. The smell was overpowering, and the black and white granular material was unidentified. Staff had to wear gas masks and protective suits. Technicians carefully removed the contents, a process that took 2.5 hours. Finally, a complete mummified female body was revealed. The victim wore complete clothing: a leopard print jacket, sweater, skirt, and shoes, all in styles from 20 to 30 years ago. At the bottom of the barrel was a woman's purse containing a comb, makeup case, eyelash curler, ring, and a phone book completely soaked in liquid. Testing revealed the liquid was industrial dye, and the granules were plastic pellets, both common materials in plastic manufacturing plants of that era. Just as investigators were examining the waterlogged address book, the medical examiner made a crucial discovery. Around the victim's neck hung a delicate pendant. Engraved on the back were the words, "To Patricia, love Uncle Phil." This was the case's first solid lead. Police immediately searched missing persons files from the past 40 years, focusing on women named Patricia, about 5 feet tall, of Latin American descent. The victim's teeth had gold dental work, a technique more common in South America. However, the search yielded nothing. Patricia might be a nickname, or perhaps a red herring planted by the killer. Days later, the autopsy revealed an even more brutal truth. The victim was approximately 28 years old and 9 months pregnant. Both mother and baby had mummified. Cause of death: blunt force trauma to the back of the head, at least 10 fatal wounds with a shattered skull. The killer had been extremely vicious. This was clearly a revenge killing. Police refocused on the barrel's chemical markings, which pointed to a chemical factory in New York State. Fortunately, the factory was still operating and had kept old sales records. According to the barrel's serial number, it was manufactured in 1965 for dye storage and purchased by Elkins Plastics, a company that produced plastic flowers and grass. The factory's founder was Howard Elkins, the first owner of the house where the body was found. The house was built in the 1960s and had changed hands 4 times. Investigation revealed that except for Howard, none of the other owners had any connection to plastic factories or chemical materials. Further digging showed Howard founded the plastic factory in 1965. Business boomed, and in the late 1970s, he sold the factory and retired to Florida with his family. On the surface, he was successful, happily married with 3 kids. but his factory had used large quantities of green dye and plastic pellets, perfectly matching what was found in the barrel. However, just as police were closing in on Howard, town building records showed the basement was built in 1980 by the second owner, after Howard had already moved away. This seemed to destroy their theory. Detective Edwards, refusing to give up, pulled the original building plans and found a critical error. The 1980 record was actually for basement repairs. The basement had existed since the 1960s when the house was first built, during Howard's time there. This paperwork mistake nearly let the killer escape. On September 8, 1999, Edwards and Detective Brian Parpin flew to Florida to find 70-year-old Howard. Confronted with photos of the barrel, Howard firmly denied ever using barrels containing green dye at his factory. But police had never mentioned the dye's color. His answer revealed his guilt. When police requested a DNA sample to compare with the fetus, Howard lost control and angrily ordered them out. His erratic behavior only confirmed their suspicions. As police applied for a warrant to forcibly collect Howard's DNA, the lab delivered good news. After a week of slow drying and restoration, the dye-soaked address book became partially legible. Technicians found Howard's name and home phone number, along with a contact named Kathy and her number. Police called Kathy, and surprisingly, she answered. After 30 years, she'd never moved or changed her number. When she learned why police were calling, she emotionally confirmed they were looking for Raina Angelica Malaquin. Patricia was Raina's nickname. According to Kathy's account, in 1966, 28-year-old Raina came from El Salvador to work in America. She met Kathy, her English teacher, and they became close friends. After completing her English course, Raina got a job at Howard's plastic factory. In 1969, Raina told Kathy she was pregnant. The father was a married man who promised to divorce his wife and marry her. But 9 months into the pregnancy, Raina tearfully called Kathy, saying she'd confessed to the man's wife about her pregnancy. The man verbally abused and threatened her, saying he would kill her. When Kathy rushed to Raina's apartment, she found the door unlocked and food still warm on the table, but Raina was gone. She reported it to police multiple times, but they refused to file a report because the missing person was an adult who'd been gone less than 4 hours, with no family member filing the complaint. Raina had no family in America and simply vanished. Only Kathy kept the same phone number for 30 years, hoping for news. Kathy's testimony matched all the evidence perfectly. Police determined the married man Raina mentioned was Howard. Based on existing evidence, they theorized that in 1969, when Howard learned Raina had contacted his wife, he flew into a rage, killed her, stuffed her body in a factory barrel filled with plastic pellets, intending to dump it at sea. But the barrel was too heavy to move, so he hid it in the basement, where it remained for 34 years. As police prepared to arrest Howard on September 10, 1999, his wife reported him missing. That afternoon, police found Howard in a neighbor's garage, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in the back seat of a car. Talk about bad luck for that neighbor. Howard clearly knew he couldn't escape and took the coward's way out, evading justice. Police legally obtained Howard's DNA and compared it with the fetus. The results showed a 99.93% match. The evidence was irrefutable. Howard was the baby's father and Raina's killer. After solving the case, contacting Raina's family became the next challenge. Oscar Corral, a reporter from Newsday, volunteered to help. Taking Raina's immigration documents, he traveled to El Salvador. After 3 days of going door to door in remote villages, he finally found Raina's family. When he delivered the news of Raina's death, her mother fainted on the spot. Upon waking, she clutched her daughter's youthful photograph and wept uncontrollably. Raina's mother told the reporter she was the eldest daughter who went to America to earn tuition for her younger siblings. Before leaving, she promised to bring the family to join her once she made money. But for 30 years, there had been complete silence. Oscar brought Raina's ashes back to El Salvador. Her family held a funeral 34 years overdue, finally bringing her soul home. This barrel murder case spanning 34 years ended with the killer's suicide and the truth finally revealed. For police, it was a long race against time. For Kathy, A 30-year burden was finally lifted. For Raina's family, the belated truth brought unbearable grief, but also redemption, allowing their loved one to finally rest in peace. Howard lived free for 34 years, enjoying a comfortable retirement, while Raina and her unborn child lay in darkness, mercilessly eroded by time. His suicide was perhaps the result of 30 years of accumulated guilt and fear, ultimately paying the price for his crime.